Welcome to Effective Communication Part 2. In Part 1, we went over what was effective communication and also the goals to set in place in order to have effective communication. In this video, we're going to go over the different responses and the different kinds of communication styles that people have. And the sad thing is most of them are negative. But that's the whole reason we're doing this video, is so that we can identify and get rid of some of those ineffective and actually destructive communication habits and styles. So first, what we're going to begin with is the different kind of styles or ways that people communicate. And the three that we're going to begin with are passive, aggressive, and then assertive. I will give you an explanation for what each of them is, and then give you a couple examples of each one. So let's begin with passive. When somebody is passive, that means that they will do maybe a couple different things. One, they just won't say anything because they don't want to start a fight, or they just want to stay neutral so everybody likes them. Or maybe they just are easily shut down if somebody is more domineering than them. And so they will just rest and never try to set any boundaries or do anything with the information. They just shut down. And the problem with this one is that when you are passive about things that are bothering you or different issues, what goes on is that it's usually internalized. And when it's internalized, that's where hatred, bitterness, anger, many unhealthy insecurities, different things like that, they can build inside. And not only that, is during that times too, when you build anger and bitterness, unforgiveness, things like that, you actually are releasing destructive chemicals, because those feelings, our bodies release chemicals to motivate us to do something. But when we don't do anything and we stay passive, those chemicals begin to attack our bodies. And with that, many autoimmune diseases are actually because of this. And so it's not healthy not to say anything. And often, again, some examples of that is, if I have a spouse and every time I try to say something, I get attacked or I get put down, then eventually I just go with the flow, even though it's bothering me and building up. And another thing that happens with that, when you do that, is you can only hold so much. So what's going to happen is either you're going to have a breakdown, and or you will be passive so long, it's kind of like blowing up a balloon, that eventually that balloon breaks and you just vomit and explode on whoever is in front of you. And so that's, both ways are very damaging. And then the second one is aggressive. When you're aggressive, then what you're doing is you are putting out there destructive, whether words or physically. You're physically or emotionally destructive. And those aren't okay, because what happens is when I'm going to respond to something, I'm going to attack you, the person. I'm going to put you down. I'm going to put you in your place. I'm going to harm you. I'm going to push. I'm going to yell. I'm going to use intimidation. I'm going to hit, bite, scream, throw things. I'm going to threaten. Those are all violent, aggressive, and abusive. None of them are okay. In other words, if I'm asking somebody to do something, well, if you ever do that, then I will. All right, that's a threat. And what we need to be able to do is come together. Or maybe somebody comes and they're yelling at me and I'm yelling back. Whenever you're yelling, Unless it's to yell at somebody to stop them from danger, we don't raise our voice because it's disrespectful, and it is always abusive and destructive. And we have to be very careful because different people in authority think they have a right or it's okay for them to talk demeaning to somebody or treat them less than. It is never okay. Never. And just because God puts us in a position of authority, whether it's a boss, a parent, a government, we don't treat people disrespectful just because we are placed over them. If anything, a person of authority is to nurture and care for those underneath them. And so we have to be very careful that we don't excuse that behavior because it is never productive and never okay. And then we have the last one. The last one is to be assertive. And assertive means that when I have feelings, I have issues, or I have a problem, that I will address it. I will address it one way or another, but I will address it respectfully. And if I might be in danger, the best way to do it is face to face. Because too often it's easy just to do text or send a letter. But in a case where it could be damaging or the person never listens to you, then those avenues, again, they're kind of second, but they are necessary and another place that you can go to make sure that you are not being passive. Because again, we need to make our voices heard on what we're feeling. And if somebody isn't willing to talk with us or even listen to us, then there's other avenues that we need to go. Assertive is also taking steps to hold people accountable for their actions. It is love to hold people accountable for their actions. Many times people, they want to hold, they want others to be responsible for their actions. And that's not okay. It is healthy and assertive to set boundaries. If people do not respect our lives and who we are and are mistreating us or in any way being abusive, it is okay to set healthy boundaries. It's okay no matter what relationship. I mean, we're, to submit to the government, we're to submit to our bosses, we're to submit, husbands and wives, and we're to submit to each other. But in that, at no time are we to be disrespectful or abusive. So again, you have passive, which just shuts down and never goes and follows through with anything. You have aggressive, which again is harming people with their physically and or with words. Those are all abusive and destructive. And then you have assertively, that I'm going to deal with the situation, whether I deal with it in person or in a letter. But each thing is very important. So if we want healthy, effective communication, then we need to be assertive, not aggressive or passive. And so in the next video, we will be going over some of the responses that people may have when we come to them with an issue. And we will also go over examples of that as well. So again, pay attention to the way you respond. Do I shut down and just give up and not say anything? Do I yell, put down, fight, hit, push, pull, threaten? Or am I assertive, where I am respectful, I address the issue, and I follow through to make healthy changes? Until next time, pay attention to see which pattern that you yourself have.